looks like somebody tried to come in right when I started, so hold on.
I wonder who that was.
Does it look like it started? Yeah.
I saw something that said the content was being sent to a third party. And I see it looks like it says in the top right-hand corner, there we go. It's working. Good
Hello.
evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Cindy. Welcome.
So
Welcome.
is it on YouTube yet?
It should be on YouTube and Facebook. Let me.
Okay, because I pulled up the gathering, but I don't see it yet. So, oh, here it is.
It's on
Yes.
YouTube also.
Excellent. All
Yeah.
right. Welcome, everybody.
Mhm.
This is Reverend Dr. Winter Laws at the Gathering, a
Mhm.
womanist church. We have an awesome opportunity this evening to continue our Bible study where we are reading the book for us that Reverend Dr. Renita Weems created. What Matters Most? 10 Lessons Living Passionately from the Song of Solomon. We are continuing our Bible study this evening. And let me share with you that one of our ministry partners, Reverend Tracy Anderson Talato, is going to be our facilitator this evening. I am looking forward to this section called Identity. It's chapter 2. And I hope when you join this call that you too will be ready to ask questions and engage this text with Reverend Tracy Anderson Talato. I'm going to hand the baton, the mic, the Facebook, YouTube directly to her so she can begin this effort of us diving into this particular Bible study. Thank you so much, Reverend Tracy, for facilitating this session for us.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Winter. I would like to also greet everyone who is joining us on this Wednesday. Those of you who thought it not robbery to be with us tonight to do this exploration. Now, Dr. Winter is talking about me as the facilitator. I'm not even certain if it rises to the level of that. I think we're just going to just have a conversation because I've written down some thoughts and some notes. And so for whomever was expecting a big technological show tonight, I apologize for my low techness. But and I know that's not a word, I made it up. Um, so I just had some thoughts that I wrote down. For those who have read the chapter and perused the questions at the end, I kind of answered those questions for myself, and I thought we could kind of talk about and share those things. And for those of you who are on YouTube and on Facebook, we are going to be trying to monitor the chat in case there's any questions or comments that we can share across the whole gathering sphere. And yeah, so I would just like to start out. It is the identity chapter that we're working on tonight. And I mean, from the very first page, when she talks about when Dr. Weems talks about one's identity and the idea of peeling back the layers, like a woman of a certain age And I guess that would be me, because I guess I'm of a certain age. I've gotten to that point. I keep trying to tell myself I'm still in late summer, but I'm sure I'm closer to the beginnings of fall and the leaves are turning colors. But just looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing the woman that you've become. And she talks about when you have to peel back the layers of false selves that you have put on, and just facing like your authentic identity. And I mean, even that paragraph, I was like, wow, because I feel like literally that's what I'm doing in my life right now, is pulling back all of the things that I've put on and my whole life, trying to be a people pleaser and trying to be the version that I think that people want. And she is talking about not doing that anymore. And so I guess like the first thing I would attack starts right with that first page. Is that an experience that any of us have had? Like Miss Cindy, uh, Dr. Winter, is that something that resonates with y'all? Just that idea of peeling away. And yeah.
Well, thank you for that question, Reverend Tracy. I definitely had to do that because of my sexuality and dealing with it from a internal perspective first and foremost, and then publicly in the context of whether or not I even wanted to share not just my identity for fear of some of the hate mongering that goes on even today. Uh, but once I settled it within myself in terms of my identity, I felt comfortable in my skin. But at the same time, there has been in my past some fear about saying who it is that I am and that I know to the core.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I guess that's the idea of like, I've heard lately the idea like the difference between coming out of the closet as opposed to inviting someone into your story. And it like brings two different kinds of, at least for me, two different kinds of vibes. Like, the idea of coming out. Because I mean, even if it's not necessarily about sexuality, I think a lot of us are in the closet about something. I mean, we typically use it for that, but it's not always just about that. I mean, like, what do you think, Miss Cindy?
I think for me, regarding the peeling back, I think I resonate with that in the aspect of healing, as I too came from being a people pleaser and had experienced a lot of different traumas in my life. And when I began the healing process, therapy and trying to get my life back on track, I was always amazed by how deep things had affected me, but I didn't really understand it until the layers started getting peeled back and peeled back and peeled back until all of the stuff is up on the surface. And then that's when you oftentimes deal with things. And regarding the coming out of the closet, my coming out of the closet was around the shame that I carried because of the domestic violence that I was situated in as a child. And I carried that like it was my shame, but it was never my shame. I was the kid. You know what I mean? But it was so embarrassing for me that I didn't talk about it until I started, healing a little bit and understood that it wasn't my shame to be carrying from the beginning.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that
You're
um,
welcome.
with us. I really feel like we could talk about that all day, because I mean, like now that I have finally got myself into therapy and
Mm-hmm.
and just I couldn't even do that for years and years because I figured I'd go to the therapist and the therapist would be like, oh no, you too much. You too crazy. You need to get out of my office. You ain't got enough money for me to deal with you. So it took a long time to get over the shame and the embarrassment of even being able to go to therapy. And and so that's why I guess that part resonated with me so much. And so just thinking about the title of the chapter, identity, I mean, because because I do what I do, I was in the closet as a nerd for the longest and someone who looks up everything. So I even looked up the idea of identity, and it's the unique way that you define yourself. Like how do I define my identity? And it could be, your values, your beliefs, your interests, your social roles, and your personal identity consists of everything that you believe makes you you. So, I mean, it's like a myriad of different things. And I really like the way that this part of the book goes behind the first chapter, where she's talking about there's so much about me that I didn't even know. And just the idea, the identity and passion. And this is what I was thinking about the last time too, about how passion is not something that's awakened by other people. Passion is the energy that's within you that that flows out to the way that you do things. Like I always thought that passion, and you know how like all the romance books with those horrible covers and stuff, like the poor woman who has to wait for her passion to be awakened, you know, all of the corny McCornster stuff. And I mean, honestly, I still like a good romance book, but now I know that that's not real life. My passion has to be something that's within me and something that drives me. And so, I guess I could just ask, you know, what makes you passionate? Like as part of your identity, what gives you the energy that flows out of you to do other things? Like I can say that my passion is doing the social justice, racial justice things. I'm passionate now about being a chaplain. I love being able to go into a room and make a difference in somebody's life. You know, I don't know if it rises to life, but at least while they're in the hospital room, I'm not saying I'm changing the trajectory of anybody's lives, but I really believe in that thing with Frederick Buechner, the world's deepest need and your deepest joy, awakening that passion, your calling. So I can see that now. And I think it's a blessing when we can recognize and utilize that passion for things.
That's awesome. I had never heard that quote before, so thank you for bringing that forth. Maybe we'll get that typed into the chat at some point in the future, whether or not it be on YouTube or Facebook. One of the things I think about with regard to passion, for myself anyway, is that in terms of me enjoying nature, and being outside playing golf and enjoying God's kingdom, with regard to the sun, the animals, the even playing in the rain for me. It allows me to. That's the reason why I enjoy playing golf, because I get to enjoy God's kingdom from a nature perspective, and it just brings out something in me because I'm naturally uh, uh, competitive. I'm naturally competitive. And I have some creativity on the golf course, but y'all would have to witness that at a different time. uh, so I had a question, and I don't know if Cindy, did you want to answer her question about passion, being
Yeah,
passionate?
the thing that I find most passionate is the work that I do because of my childhood. I now work in the space of helping victims of domestic violence. So I'm very passionate about that because for me, when I was growing up, like nobody came to help us. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Nobody, people saw the damage that was being done. But nobody came in to help. Everybody just minded their own business back then. So now I really take a lot of joy in helping the victims get away from the situations and then get back on their feet and try to maintain some stability and just encourage, about self-worth, self-love, and all the things that you don't know about yourself when you're in those types of spaces. And the other thing I'm passionate about is yoga, because as a practice, yoga has added a lot to my personal healing, as far as just learning how to breathe, learning how to just meditate and do things and being still. And so now I'm in yoga teacher training so that I could add that to the ways that I can help other people.
That is so cool.
Thank
I just found a yoga studio here in Corpus called Sacred Sisters, and it's owned
you.
by two women of color.
Hmm.
And I'm just now starting to like try and get into yoga.
Hmm.
I am really having to work on not, they call it a yoga practice as opposed
Hmm.
to a yoga perfect,
Exactly.
because I want to
Exactly.
be like doing warrior two and all the things, and I'm still trying to figure it out. And so
Yes.
I love that for you, that you're
Yeah.
doing that. And I think what I hear you saying is that in your work, part of it is about destigmatizing
Hmm.
and helping people who have had the same experience that you had, to
Yes.
say that it's nothing to be ashamed of.
Exactly.
What has happened to you is not about you, it's
Yes.
about the people who perpetuated the
Those
abuse.
things. Yes. Absolutely.
So, Reverend Tracy, I had a question, and it made me actually kind of stop, pause, and think about this. When you read this particular uh, chapter on, and I can't see the page number because I'm on my iPhone, but it says it may seem like a small thing to us as modern readers, but our heroine is the only woman in Scripture who describes herself in her own words: "I am black and beautiful."
It's on page 32.
On page 32. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
Cindy.
Hmm.
I am black and I am beautiful. Seems like to me she did a self-assessment and she was passionate enough about herself to use affirming words for herself. What are your thoughts on that?
I love that.
Me too.
Um, Basically, like thinking about the whole translation argument is the first thing, because she brings that up where the Hebrew word could be translated to but, or, and and the difference in the meaning depending on which one of those conjunction junction, what's your function. So the function of or makes the sentence totally different than the function of and I love the what has become the womanist translation, like black and beautiful, because so much of the time, at least, and even now, because of the standards of beauty that still rise to the level of European beauty standards, that's why we still hear stuff like, you're pretty for a black girl, or or the colorism, or all the things like black still is not a good thing. I mean, if we look at our vocabulary, black means bad. so much of the time, blackballed, black sheep, blacklist, you
Mhm.
know. The only thing that I can readily come across that says black and it's a good thing is Black Friday,
I was just thinking the same thing.
or being in the black, which to me says loads about the fact that our black bodies were the source of the economy, and the reason why America is a superpower today. And I probably went zero to the left of what you were trying to get across, Dr. Winter. But I love the idea that the Shulamite woman is so confident in herself that she can be like, I'm black and beautiful. You can't say nothing to me because I got it going on. I am black. I am beautiful. And I think that that's wonderful because even now, that's a difficult thing. I am always so loving to see sisters who have no problem with affirming their appearance, their worth, everything. Like, I still have a tendency to look in the mirror and think of everything that looks bad. So I love it when a woman can say, damn, I got it going on. And that's basically what she's doing.
Mhm.
So,
Especially because her brothers threw her out there in the vineyards to work and do all those things, which contributed to the deepening of the color of her skin, but she was still wearing it proudly.
and I absolutely, absolutely love that. I really, this is the first time I've actually dove into this story.
Me too.
I seriously, because I've never really heard it preached,
Hmm.
except of course as an allegory. This book is the first time I've ever seen it where it is addressing the passion within the book,
Hmm.
you know, and I have to say I didn't even think about it, you
Hmm.
know, uh, because people really typically shy away from certain any kind of aspect within the Bible that's like that. I mean, I like, for example, in Ruth. Now, nobody ever like I never knew that feet was a euphemism. I remember I remember being a kid and reading Ruth and how it talked about Ruth uncovered Boaz's feet, and the next thing you know, they were married, and I'm like, his feet,
Right.
I had no idea because it's like we, especially as women, and this is what Dr. Weems talks a lot about in this book, is she owned her own passion, her sexual passion, her passion for life, her passion for her shepherd. She was not afraid of any of that.
Right.
And that's what I love about what Dr. Weems is teaching. You know, I just I just really find that to have, like, of course the book is 10 lessons. So I'm learning that lesson.
Right.
Just
It-
go ahead.
that's awesome. I was just going to share with you a couple of in our current era, some of the ways that we have used black, not blackball or anything like that, but black excellence, right? Which is a celebration of achievements that that is a positive or an affirmation that we're trying to instill in our children. We're trying to instill in one another. The black joy, a radical act of resistance and healing, which centers on actually happiness and love and living in a vibrant life, living a vibrant life despite systemic oppression. So we have come a long way from the way of old, where people use those to put us down, for us to create our own vocabulary of excellence.
And you know what? I hear you. And it makes me think about the ways in which we will take things back that have been co-opted, or the only thing that I would say about Black excellence is sometimes even that puts an expectation of perfection sometimes, that it's hard in some ways to live up to. But like Black joy, I'm all about that.
How
I'm
about
all
Black
about that.
Power? Back in the day, Black Power.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's why I say I love us, because to me, I wouldn't be anything but a Black woman ever, even if I had the
Neither.
chance
Me neither.
to do something else. I have a t-shirt, one of my favorite t-shirts, that says, I didn't ask to be born Black, I just got lucky.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
I love it because I feel like to be anything else but us would be going from first class to coach.
Amen. Amen.
And I have no desire to do that. And I mean, just because of our Black joy, because of our Black excellence, because of the fact that, we lost our religion, our culture, our God, and many of us, by the way we act, we even lost our minds. We came here and we did the darn thing. They want to be us. That's why they so mad, because they want to be us. Like Beyonce says, being Black, maybe that's the reason why they always mad, and they always have been.
Well, I'm going to go back to a quote in the book. And
Okay.
then if you could tell me your thoughts on this, especially regarding colorism. It says, and I believe this is page 33, it says, she is by her own admission a woman of dark complexion, but that's nothing strange given the part of the world she lived in. The hot Mediterranean sun has seen to it that those born beneath her rays are typically olive to dark brown in complexion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, like, you're referring to, I got Miss Cindy, why don't you tell us what you're thinking about that?
Okay, wait.
That's on page 30.
Yeah, I'm at the bottom of 33, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think because she started out a complexion, but like I said earlier, she was thrown out in the hot sun by her brothers as sort of like a punishment, because they made her do things. At later in the chapter, she was talking about how they made her do things that she wasn't comfortable doing, but I guess didn't have agency at the time to do anything different. But I think she doesn't. She owns it. It doesn't matter what color it is. I think she felt very confident and comfortable with the color of her skin, and she really enjoyed being a Black woman. Because it says the
Yeah.
Shulamite doesn't apologize for her dark complexion.
Yeah, so much as she uses the occasion to protest her brother's power over her.
Yeah.
And if she sounds defensive, it's because she's disappointed in her brothers and resents their power over her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that it's more about that. It's not because she is ashamed of the color of her skin.
Mm-mm.
And I know that I have a bad habit of like putting everything back to you know, kind of like I can't remember what the name of Martin Lawrence's character was in Boomerang, but he'd always be like, racial, man, racial, you know, because of the fact that we do still like look for that proximity to whiteness. Not as much as we used to, but the fact that you have light skin privilege, like someone who looks more like, I guess, a Halle Berry is different than a Viola Davis in terms of, you know, the roles or the ability to get into rooms. And that's not to say anything about either woman's acting ability. It's because still to the the majority culture, the prevailing culture. I'm not even going to call them majority anymore because they're not majority. That's why they're tripping right now. But because we are the global majority and they're mad. But the idea that us having representation that is more than a light-skinned, straight-haired Black woman. We're seeing the beauty that is us, the rainbow of colors. And that's what's so important about the Shulamite woman who is able to say, I'm Black and beautiful. They're not diametrically opposed, is what she's saying. And that is what has been so problematic about the translators who would say, I'm Black, Black, beautiful. You know, and we're getting more and more to the point that you don't have to be one or the other. You can be both.
Fully inclusive. Thank you.
And
Thank you,
yeah,
Reverend Tracy. So I just want to look at what your response is to the first question in this chapter. It says, if you'd known 10, 20, or 30 years ago what you know now, would you have done anything differently?
I'm gonna put that question back on you. You answer that first. Would you have done anything different?
The short answer for myself is no, I wouldn't have done anything different. With regard to my identity, I think the timing for myself in terms of whether or not it be coming out, whether or not it be accepting the opportunity as being a preacher, or even playing golf. I'm going to go back to that because that to me is a part of who it is that I am now. Um, I wouldn't change any of it. It has placed me, I think, at the perfect spot where I can advocate for LGBTQ. I can advocate for Black women. I can advocate for aunts who may not, or relatives that may not have any children, but are doing all the things that are parental like, and give people credit where credit is due.
I love that. I love that. The fact that you would not change anything. That is so amazing to me. Because I mean, I could write a book on the things that I've, and it's not so much about doing differently. I think it's more like if I could go back and tell like 20-year-old Tracy that you're worth it. You don't have to be scared to command respect. You don't have to be afraid that if you have certain standards that's gonna go badly for you. That would be like the main thing I would tell myself. I would tell myself that yes, you can take care of yourself. No, you don't need a man to be with. No, you don't have to be part of a couple. No, it's not true that you're there's a song that says you're nobody till somebody loves you. And I truly believed that. And if I could do something different, I would have the wherewithal to recognize that sooner.
Yeah, that you make a good point. I've had other people say something similar to me, in the context of that this is what they would change, or choose different friends, choose different colleges, choose. And one of the things I look at least for myself, it's made me more aware now of maybe espousing, I shouldn't say maybe, espousing wisdom to others that may be younger than I am, or maybe even older than I am. But the context is that what I'm made of today allows me to have that wisdom and knowledge to share. And so if you did make different choices back then, there are certain things that wouldn't be in place. As an example, for some people chose not to be here, right? Some people made that choice not to be here. Some people chose to take jobs that were under were lower than their standards, but maybe they learned leadership then. Maybe they coached somebody to become president of the United States, not the current one, but you know, maybe they'll have something to kind of look forward to in terms of those standards. So your experiences, I believe, and again, I have to speak for myself. My experiences, I believe, has allowed me to pour into other people. Because if I didn't have those experiences going 1,400 miles away from school when I was 18 years old, then the impact I had for my siblings or my family, even one of my cousins, younger cousins, said, I wanted to go to the same school you went to. I didn't find that out until a couple of years ago. But her desire to go to college, I was the first one to go to and graduate from college on my mother's side of the family. And those things, you never know who's watching you and the impact you have on them.
Absolutely. Do you have some thoughts, Miss Cindy?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I know that I became a social worker because I needed one. You know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
know that, and I think like my whole life I was a social worker. You know what I mean? Because I was always just trying to help people, even though I was in a very bad situation. If I was outside of those doors, I was braiding people's hair, little kids' hair. I was carrying the groceries up the street for my senior neighbors. I was over there folding clothes, doing whatever I could to help, because even in the thing that I know about myself is that even if I'm not in a good place, if I help somebody, that puts me in a better place.
Absolutely. It sounds like even all those years ago, that was part your passion,
Yes,
that formed your identity.
yes,
So all of that was working in you, even even from the time that you were a child.
yes.
And Dr. Winter, I feel like my life is pretty much, what you were saying about how the convergence of all the experiences in your life have helped you in terms of being a mentor, being someone who can dispense wisdom. I was literally having a conversation about that today at work because we were talking about time travel and the fact that I have always had a fascination with time travel because of, just like we were talking about, if you could go back 10 years and change something, or 20 years or 30 years. But the problem with that is, if you change one thing, you change everything. So you can't
Mhm.
isolate an incident or a decision or a consequence and come back, and except for that one thing, everything else remains the same.
Right.
And I that's the thing. Now, if I felt like I could do that, then I would be like, yeah, let's try that time travel thing. But if, like, for example, if I went back and didn't marry the man that I married, or I didn't join the Air Force at 17, or I didn't have all of these different experiences, then we might not even be having this conversation. More than
Absolutely.
likely, we would not be having this conversation because each of us would be in an entirely different place. I look at it like, you know how you have something and there's a loose thread and you pull it and
Yes.
everything falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I wouldn't be able to be, able to say to young women, and I guess that's part of a passion that I have too. Like, I like to tell young people, young women, maybe older women, because I've had friends that have chosen or not been able to have children, who have been told that they are less a woman because they
Mm-hmm.
haven't born children. And I used to think that. And that was like to me, it was always a given. Like, you got to get married, you got to have kids, because that's what women do. For me, it was never like, should I do it? It was just a matter of when am I going to be able to do it? Because my brain never conceived of any other life. And that's why part of my passion now is telling young people, you make your own choices.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to listen to what society is trying to dictate to you.
Right.
You do you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wish someone had told me that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that actually brings me to another question I've got for you. If you go to page, I'm going to trust this iPad. Page,
I'll let you know.
okay, page 45. And in the middle, I'm not exactly sure where, but it starts off, our heroine is still discovering new things about herself at the end of the book. You see that? Our heroine is still discovering new things about herself at the end of the book. So my question is, Cindy and Tracy, uh, what new things are you discovering about yourselves right now?
I'll go because
Go
I'm
ahead, please.
always in that space of I'm always in a space of learning and growing. And the things that I've been recently discovering about myself is that I'm not going to do anything that I don't want to do. I say yes to everything. And sometimes I say yes when I should be saying no. I'm learning that I don't always have to go, go, go. I can sit and be still sometimes. I mean, I read this beautiful book by Trisha Hershey, Rest is Resistance,
Yes.
and that gave me a whole new outlook on life. Because when you're conditioned to be better, do twice as hard, go twice as fast, you don't know how to be still. And it's like like I feel like at times I've been running away from my life, just trying to be productive, but not really sitting in a space of where I can enjoy. I'm learning to be present. I'm learning to just go with the flow, for a lack of a better way to do it, rather than have everything so regimented and structured for me. I can just get up and don't have any hopes for the day and just get into whatever I feel like it as I feel like doing it. So it's about, for me on this part of the journey, is being still, being present, being in good connection with people, the people that I want to be in connection with, not people who are given to me to be in connection with, and just trying to live life, not not that I'm not planning certain things, but not always planning everything, and not looking so far into the future, learning just how to enjoy each day that I'm given. Yeah,
That
that's what
sounds
yeah, that's where I'm at.
that's really beautiful. I
Mhm.
mean, I feel like, you know, even thinking about that, like, so much of the time I've never given thought about that for me. Like when someone asks me, like in the book where it says, what are you passionate about?
Mm-hmm.
Or what do you like? And I think, I don't know. I don't know because I'm so busy trying to be and do what other people like so that I don't think about what I like. And
Mm-hmm.
so now I'm discovering that it's okay for me to do things just because I like it. I always have thought previously, for example, I love fresh flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never have flowers around because I figured it had to be a special occasion and somebody had to give them to me. I never would wear like lacy, silky lingerie because I figured that had to be a special occasion. But what I'm learning now is I can get flowers for myself because I love flowers and I
Mm-hmm.
can have them in my house and just come and it never fails. I can walk past and literally stop and smell the roses.
Mm-hmm.
And it always, always, always makes me feel better
Yes.
because I've realized you can use the good china. You
Mm-hmm.
can wear the fancy clothes, you can do whatever, and it doesn't have to be a special occasion because waking up in the morning is a special occasion. And that's what I'm learning about myself is how much I love beauty, how much I love art, how much I love all of those things that I never really thought about before. Because first of all, I figured like that's white people stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that can stand and stare at a painting. But what y'all don't see in this house is this painting that I bought like 10 years ago that I had to like make payments on because it was just that expensive. But every time I look at that painting, I get joy every
Mm-hmm.
single time. And so what I'm learning about myself is there's places that I can get joy from that I never ever realized.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what you now it's your turn to answer the question, Dr. Winter.
Well, I knew you were going to turn it on me.
That's right.
I'm just facilitating the call. The thing that I'm learning about myself is that I truly am a lifelong learner.
That too. Yeah.
When I finished college a long time ago on a faraway land, I was like, I am done. I don't ever have to go back to school again. I am done. And yes, I told God, don't send me back to school. So 29 years later, I end up back in school 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so, um, so that was one thing I learned about myself. And the other thing I am learning about myself is not to be too hard on myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's really important to me because of what I strive for in terms of being an aunt, in terms of being a friend. If you're my friend on Facebook, check out what I put out yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I defined friendship, and I looked. I had a reason to go back and find my definition of friendship to see, am I living up to those standards that I established for myself? And
Mm-hmm.
so things like that. Oh, and the other thing that I am still in the process of working through for myself is I've always, since I was 13, I wanted to write a book. And
Mm-hmm.
so uh, that I'd like to do that in the next year or so, to write
Mm-hmm.
a book. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so anyway,
What are you going to write your book about? Do you know yet?
I have 3 books in mind. I don't know which one's going
Okay.
to be first. So one of them's on my dissertation, my project that I did for my, and then
Mm-hmm.
another one is I've written poems, and if you check out my Facebook page, you'll see one of the ones I wrote. Uh, it's something I wrote in 1995.
Mm-hmm.
So And like I said, I had reason to pull that back up. So maybe a collection of poems or writings. I shouldn't call them all poems, but a collection of writings that I've done over the years. So
Excellent.
I think that would be fantastic because I love when you share your writings, you know, during church services and in different places where you shared them. I would buy that book, and you would need to sign it,
thank you.
but I would absolutely buy it because I love hearing your writings,
Thank
you
you.
know.
Yeah. So my experiences in terms of actually being shut down, if you will, it came from my ninth grade English teacher. She told me never to be a writer, but affirmations from people like you and others have allowed me to accept that um, I have something somebody else wants to read inside
Right.
of
You
me,
have
so I have to
something to
pour it out.
say.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And you know, I hear you because I mean, just I think that's something else that I'm learning about myself is that there are things that I can actually do that I never thought that I could do, you know, or that I never would do. Like, and one of my dear friends, she is exactly the opposite. And so that's another thing that y'all don't see back here is there's a picture of me on a horse.
I see
Because
the horse.
I made the mistake of telling her I had never been on a horse before. And the next thing you know, she's like, let's go to, she found some place that lets you ride horses on the beach.
I did the
And
same thing one time though.
yeah, I and she had the nerve to videotape me getting on the horse, which I had no idea until after the fact that she did that because I would have been horrified if I had known it was being taped. But I mean, now there's things that I'm learning. You can have a, I have a sense of adventure.
Mhm.
Like as soon as I can get over being terrified, I really would like to try like jumping out of a plane, like a tandem jump.
Mhm.
I'm like right tippy toeing up to that. I really would love to be able to do that just because I've always dreamed of flying.
Mhm.
If I had a superpower, it would be to fly.
Right.
But I'm afraid I'd kill the parachute jumper. I would I would like tear him up because I'd be so scared that I would kill us both. So
Well, we're gonna speak some positivity into
Yeah.
that at some point. So I just want you to know, sometimes we set limitations on ourselves, and I think as a result of this story about identity, as it relates to the Shulamite woman, that one of the things is that she actually, in terms of identity, frees us.
Mhm.
I believe, not just from a physical context, but
Mhm.
emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. What are your thoughts on that, Reverend Tracy?
I feel like you're right because she is authentic in every single one of those ways. She's not afraid to feel her feelings. She's not afraid to, you know, like Dr. Williams, she talks about like the like she sprung on the shepherd and she doesn't hold back her passion. She doesn't hold back like who she is, like for the whole I am black and beautiful. She is just genuine and authentic and real in every single avenue of life. And being that way, like you said, we see this as an example because it's almost like it's a model
Mhm.
for us to be able to say, you know, yes, I'm beautiful. Yes, I'm passionate. Yes, I can operate in the vineyard or the bedroom or wherever and still be my magnificent self.
Amen.
Yeah.
Magnificent, beautiful self. I don't see any questions on Facebook.
Mhm.
Do you see any on YouTube?
I'm looking and no, ma'am,
Mhm.
I do not, and I don't know if that's because people don't have questions. I don't know, but I, for one, have been enjoying this conversation between the three of us. And I know there's still like several things that I feel like I could like touch on, like the whole part in here. Let me see if I can find it in the book. Because I have so much that I have highlighted and you know underlined, and
Well,
now
let me
I'm
let
look.
me let me throw out one that you had mentioned before. You picked up a Dolores Williams book, and you picked up Dolores Williams book and said you were going to correlate it to Dr. Weems' book, Sisters in the Wilderness.
Yeah, we were talking about that before we started recording, and it was about the whole dichotomy between like spirituality and sexuality, and how the where she's talking about how falling passionately in love is analogous to our relationship with God, and just that feeling of passion and of love. And just I was thinking so much about how we try and separate all of that. We have our flesh and our spirit, but in reality there is a certain spiritual power in sexuality. And without going too crazy, I mean, I've thought about the idea, and this is something else that I was reading, where if you have a relationship and it's a deep bond, even being intimate with that person, your partner, your lover, there is a spiritual beauty to it. And we as people try and that's why we have the whole purity culture. That's why we have all of the things like God, it's a God-given gift, but we still frown on it. And the thing that I was reading about was the idea of virginity. And it was actually, now this is an Asian theology, an Asian woman's theology, and she was talking about the idea of virginity not being what we think it is, but virginity in terms of a woman who grows and matures and leans into her own identity. That's their definition of what a virgin is the more that you are able to get older and define yourself and grow because of your full experiences. That's what they're defining as being a virgin. Like, because of the fact that you are more yourself. That's, and that's different than how we typically see virginity. But in both of those cases, it's about women coming into their full selves, into their identities, into peeling back layers. And that's kind of why I was thinking about that as I was reading um, Dr. Dr. Weems' book, you know,
Mhm.
just making the correlation, because so much of the time as women, we're not encouraged to be our authentic selves. We're not encouraged to live passionately. You know, there was a whole thing I was reading about the Virgin Mary for the same reason.
Mhm.
Like, you see all these pictures of the Virgin Mary, like looking all placid with her blue mantle and her milky white skin and her rosy cheeks and all the things. But but that's not us. You know, we are women who live life passionately, who are not afraid to be authentic, and not afraid to love whoever we love.
Amen. Amen.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And
Cindy,
I'm going,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Cindy, did you have a question? Because we're coming to the top of the hour.
We
And I
are.
wanted to make sure that if you had any questions that you wanted to ask Reverend Tracy, I wanted to allow you the opportunity to potentially ask a question or two.
No, I don't have any questions. I'm enjoying the conversation as well, but I
Excellent.
don't have any questions.
Excellent. I'm sorry, Reverend Tracy. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to honor the fact that Cindy joined us. And if anybody out there in Facebook or YouTube land has any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat so we can capture it and allow Reverend Tracy to address it. So I think we're both, I'm definitely looking at uh, Facebook, and I believe Reverend Tracy is capturing things
Yeah,
on the YouTube side.
I'm still looking at YouTube.
Okay.
The only thing that I was going to say is I know we want to honor people's time,
Mhm.
and it is 8 o'clock. And I was just going to share something that I saw that I felt like um, kind of speaks to what we've been talking about with identity and becoming um, our authentic selves. To go back to where she started with peeling, you've peeled away the layers and you're really seeing yourself. And it says, Black girl, be gentle with the version that's still becoming. There's a version of you that's still learning, still unlearning, still fumbling her way forward. She deserves grace, not critique. Speak kindly to her. Be patient with her. Celebrate her. She's trying, and that is enough. You don't need to be polished to be powerful. And that was in my LinkedIn feed. And because I just learned yesterday how to do a screenshot, I, I screenshotted it so I would be able to read it
Mhm.
tonight. And that's from, yeah, somebody posted it on my feed. So, no, that's not me. I'm not going to take credit for something that I didn't write, but I thought that was so
It's very
beautiful.
appropriate too.
And
And
powerful.
yeah,
Mhm.
and I wanted to share it. And so, on that note, it is 2 minutes after the hour.
Mhm.
And I would just like to say thank you both for this conversation.
Mhm.
Thank you, Dr. Winter, for your feats of technological Black excellence, because I wouldn't have been able to do any of this StreamYard and whatever the things are. And so I'm grateful to you, Miss Cindy, because this has just been an amazing conversation. And I feel I've learned more about both of y'all.
Thank you. I felt the
Thank you.
same.
Thank you. Thank you both. We really appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good
Yeah,
evening.
you
Peace.
too.
Take care.
Mhm.
God bless.
God
Oh,
bless.
I'm probably supposed to say something about next time. There will be a session at the end of the month, the
April
fourth,
30th. It's April
April
30th.
April
Okay.
30th. So please join us again, April 30th at 7 o'clock.
Yes.
Peace. Bye-bye.
Take care. Thank you so much, Dr. Winter.
You're welcome.